Hi, I'm Michael Berg.
Andrew Berg here.
And welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football. This is week 2. We apologize for actually not doing the podcast for week 1, but we'll discuss week 1 briefly before we discuss the scores, transactions, and standings heading into week 3. Week 1 actually was pretty good for a lot of the playoff contenders last year. We had, of course, the defending champs, Smash Mouth, winning. We also had the Rough Riders winning as well. What was fascinating, though, was a couple of very close calls. The Blitz, of course, lost by 1 point, and unfortunately,
I am looking for Nick Novak's leg as we speak.
Yes, I know, and I'm still looking to figure out why Caldwell actually attempted a 2-point conversion, a blowout game that cost me at least a tie with the Falcons.
Yeah, you might be able to say we were a little too depressed to do week 1's podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't matter hard luck.
I was depressed. I was depressed, and considering how fortunate my division was, because everybody lost.
It was a great week for the XFC. As we talked about our preseason podcast, our lack of respect of the XFC, well, they really didn't do anything to shove it in our faces there. All 4 of you lost. I don't know what to make of that, but hey, week 2 came around, so...
Hey, that was good. That was good news for our division coming week 2 at least, because
I couldn't help it.
Finished on top.
It wasn't my fault that I faced a high-scoring team.
No, you're just a team that got railroaded. You're just that happens to everyone. Last year was me against Ben. It's your turn this year.
I'm still trying to figure out why Caldwell went for the 2-point conversion. At least I would have tied the Falcons, knowing full the Giants were not going to come back with about 6 minutes to play. Did he have a lot of confidence in his defense at that point?
I think you're asking yourself is why wasn't it a running play?
That's also a good question. Why it wasn't a running play? You know, smacked the Giants all season long, and now this happens.
But looking our wounds aside, we do have one trade to talk about that we didn't talk about last week, and that was the Jimmy Graham trade between the Bolts and Blitz. I'm going to bow out a bit here and let Mike comment, but let's say what the trade was for those who don't pay attention on Twitter. The trade was Jimmy Graham, Delaney Walker, and Torrey Smith took a Blitz. In return, Roddy White, Giovanni Bernard, and Dennis Pitta went to the Bolts. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I found it very interesting that Tom, who drafted Jimmy Graham, I believe with his number 1 selection overall, who had him last year in a trade, who valued him so much, would actually go to great lengths to trade for a running back who he felt he needed more so than Jimmy Graham, who we know could average 12 points in any given day. Now, Bernard we know was a good, solid running back. Obviously, perhaps Tom felt he did not have a lot of depth at the running back position, so therefore he elected to make this trade. But more importantly, it's not just trading Jimmy Graham, it's that he did not really get a lot back for him outside of Bernard, which was the key piece. I mean, he could have asked for Brad Marshall. I mean, he could have negotiated better on this one. It's not the fact that he traded Jimmy Graham, it's what he actually received in return. If he needed to address the running back position, that's fine via trade. I understand that part, but I would have bargained a lot harder for something of more value on your roster.
So you're siding with me on this one?
Yes, I am.
All right, I like that. As a me, Jimmy's back with Drew, and that makes the Blitz a happy team.
Yes.
But let's go on to week 2 now. So let's start with our first game of the week, Salmenting Hot Rods.
Well, we were very high in the Hot Rods, actually, from our preview cast before the season started, and the Hot Rods certainly pleased us. They scored the most points, actually, this week. They could do no wrong, scoring 79 points this week. Everywhere you look down this roster, Andrew Luck had a very good game. He still gets great supporting cast from his running backs, and Murray and Spiller. We look at Green Bay with 31 points against...
that was the big key. In week 1, the Hot Rods lost their game due to their defense outscoring their offense. This week, it flipped, and the supporting cast stayed the same, 79 points out there. Salmente, after trashing the Bolts, got tasting their own medicine this week, actually. Hardcore with a 79 being posted against them.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't think the Salmente could have done anything to actually win this contest. Yes, he could have started Jay Cutler, who had 4 TDs in the game, but unfortunately, even with the 4 touchdowns, it is not enough to defeat the Hot Rods.
I question here on the strategy was benching Jeremy Maclin when you're starting Nick Foles at quarterback.
Yeah, could have had that combination.
Don't you want the combos? Is Michael Evans really the better in this scenario?
He started Zach Ertz at the flex position, so why not start Maclin as well? Considering that Foles is throwing to both candidates. So.
Yeah, Darren Sproles as well. He has a lot of Eagles player. You're like, why did the number 1 receiver from the Eagles get the bench this week?
But again, to me, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have given him more points down the road, which could actually lead to tiebreaker scenarios for playoffs.
Yeah, before we get to Super Wrestling as our 5th tiebreaker.
Yeah,
but
it does matter a little bit, but again, we give a lot of credit to the Hot Rods, bouncing back, picking up their first win. So
2 weeks thing, I like what the Hot Rods are doing. Both weeks the supporting cast has showed up. And if the offense-defense is going to put up numbers like this, then it's possible that they can maintain a good, positive relationship. Seem to beat in the XFC. The Solmente on the other hand.
For my sake, I certainly hope not. But yeah.
Solmente on the other hand have been are showing Houston's defense may be atoning for last year's meltdowns.
I know. The question is, how is the Solmente going to ride Houston? Are they going to ride him throughout as the number one defense, or are they going to rotate? So only time will tell. But so far, good positive results for Houston, who actually was a very high draft pick for him.
It was. That is the linchpin, and as we said in our preseason podcast, and we stand by. We like what we see from Houston's defense early on.
I still think the Solmente are a decent team and still will contend. They'll shake off this loss.
Speaking of teams suffering from problems, Maximus versus the Pigskins.
Well, you know what? I'm glad I got it this night. I'm glad I got my victory, even though that the victory was snatched by Stafford and Calvin Johnson from me last week. So there was a good chance I could have started the season 2-0. But I'll take this win at 1-1. To me, I finally got great numbers for my supporting cast, something I did not do last week. I could have started Wilson, but I elected to go with Eli Manning.
Eli's coming.
Eli's coming, and you know what? I got 12 points from Eli Manning, so I really can't complain with that. I really can't. Foster finally got his first TD for me. Decker got his first score. Julio Jones got his first score as well for me. I got respectable numbers out of my kicker finally. To be honest, I think the kicker actually cost me last week.
It did. Phil Dawson killed you last week.
If he hits that field goal, that 2-point conversion means absolutely nothing. So he certainly contributed.
In actions that you took during the week, though, we wonder, D'Angelo Williams is back in town, guys. He's found his roster spot. Bye-bye, Stephen Ridley. Your touchdowns can be used elsewhere.
That's right. So I'm going to go back to the well. But I think the biggest key is that I elected to sign Washington's defense against Jacksonville this week.
Smart
10 points.
That was a smart free agent signing.
That was a very smart free agent signing.
We'll get to some dumb ones later. Bossman, but let's talk about Maximus a bit. Maximus, boy, this has not been a good week for them. Adrian Peterson will probably not be around the rest of the year.
That was his strongest player heading into this year, believe it or not. That was his top-tier pick.
I mean, this wasn't exactly a roster we were gleaning about the preseason podcast to begin with. Now, the best player on their team is no longer available.
To me, his depth is going to hurt them. Now the fact that Ingram scored 6, but he won't be scoring a lot for a long period of time.
Ingram broke his hand.
He broke his hand. So he's has -2 running backs headed to week 3.
McFadden has found his way back to being number one running back somewhere in this league, and that is not a good sign. Yes. Meanwhile, the wide receiving core still looks like a bunch of scrubs. Alan Hearns apparently is not going to score 2 touchdowns every week. How about that?
Not. Nope. We're still waiting for T.Y. Hilton to score. We know he'll score. Actually, that's his best offensive weapon. Vernon Davis left the game early, but we know Davis is a solid.
I don't know where he's getting his points at this point. In 2 weeks, I am scared of what Maximus is going to pull off.
It'll be curious to see what he pulls off now that he's 0-2. Again, his biggest weapons I see are really the quarterback position of the offense, which is going to be Seattle, and that's it.
New Orleans has to start at defense because unless you're going to be brave enough to start Oakland.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that game that does
happen. He'll have moments with New Orleans where they'll play well, but to me, his supporting cast is going to be key this season if he wants to go anywhere. And so far, we haven't seen too much of it. So right now, Maximus sits at the bottom in our division at 0-2.
Yeah. You, on the other hand, I don't know. 2 weeks in, I'm not feeling too much vibes out of your team. You haven't been able to use Detroit too much yet?
Yeah, I haven't even used Detroit yet, and I am 1-1, surprisingly enough. That is remarkable. Going to our next matchup, and this, of course, was
the Smack Talk game of the week.
The Smack Talk game of the week between the Bolts and the Rough Riders, and the Bolts actually won this contest. And believe it or not, the Rough Riders could have won this contest. I know what the issue was, and I'm sure he knows that the problem was at defensive end.
Maybe not enough Denver?
Not enough Denver. Had no confidence enough in the Denver combination to ride this week. Or he could have taken the 21. That would have put him over the top to defeat the Bolts.
I don't like it.
Yeah. To me, he still has a solid roster. This is just one loss and they just choke up with. But all season long, it's going to be curious to see what he likes to do defensively. He just signed San Diego this week, so I believe he will start San Diego this week.
Well, let's talk about week 3. Let's talk about what happened here in week 2 in this matchup. Is Tom getting enough out of San Francisco's offense right now?
No. I don't think that he is, but then again, there are going to be some weeks.
That's the one thing that worries me is that San Francisco, Blair Walsh aside, who generously kicked the point for you at least.
Yeah.
But Randall Cobb was the biggest thing in this game, and I'd say that was the difference.
That put him over
Randall
the
Cobb scoring a huge 14.
Yeah, again, good game for Cobb. Bernard Stacy had points this week, but he's going to need more of that. Kaepernick, we know, will be solid. So
The
again,
Bolts play against a team with a running back core even weaker
I know we
than theirs.
criticized the Bolts for not actually starting Baltimore's defense, but I don't think it cost them as much because Cincinnati had 10.
Nope.
So either way, he was successful defensively. It did not cost him, but in this particular matchup with the Rough Riders, it's a defense that cost him. Manning did not have a score, I actually believe, in the second half, which also would have put the Rough Riders up in this matchup.
2 weeks in, these teams are kind of doing what we thought they'd do. Ben
Yeah.
looks weak as hell at running back. Denver doesn't look like the number one offense in the NFL this year right
You
now.
give him credit at least for the signing where he got 6. I don't think he could have asked for a lot more, at least to keep the game close and within range.
It's something there, and the Bolts look like how we thought they would. This was a week they did get some running back and wide receiver help, and on the other hand, their offense defense solid. There's just nothing sexy, just a good enough game to get a win.
Just a good
standard
enough
win.
Just a good enough win by the Bolts. I would say a good enough and maybe just a hair better.
Yeah.
But a win is a win.
Consistency is always good.
Yep. Turning to our next game, the Blitz were only losers in the AFC in Week 1. So facing the Super Bowl champs, they were putting in a must-win or really digging a really giant
I'll be
grave
honest,
early on.
this was a beatdown. This really was a beatdown with the supporting cast. This game was over, before the 4 o'clock games really hit, and it didn't matter what your defense did.
Seattle's human on the road, I found out.
Yeah, they are human on the road. How about that? But it didn't matter. The supporting cast was tremendous. I'm looking at Drew Brees, Alfred Morris, Jimmy Graham, Brendan Marshall had 18. This is just unbelievable. And his kicker, 13 to boot. That is just remarkable.
A little love for my Buffalo signing, actually.
I'll give you
His
credit for the
offense.
Buffalo signing because that certainly worked with 26 points on offense. That was pretty good, but that was a beatdown. There was nothing the Smash Mouths could have done really to compensate this week. Again,
Solid 20 from
Rodgers, Gutowski 9, and look, there was nothing that he could have done offensively unless he elected to release one of his offenses.
Poor matchups on offense this week. Atlanta ran into a tough Cincinnati matchup.
Yeah.
Smash Mouths are, I'm guessing the Super Bowl curse is going to be active this year. It doesn't look like the Smash Mouths 2 weeks in look as strong
It
as we
just
thought they
means
were.
that he's human. That's all. And I think a key going forward is how well is Lacey going to do this year?
Jamal Charles is hurt right now.
He's hurt, but he can certainly play this in Week 3. So certainly, I think sometime during the season he's going to get good support.
I worry a bit about Smash Mouths maybe not being the runaway favorite we thought they were in the preseason podcast. There is
maybe not.
maybe not.
Maybe not. But this proves that there is a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
Okay, in our league. So I don't think that's going to be a tremendous issue. I think the Smash Mouths can bounce back, but I don't think anyone would have beaten you this week, regardless.
My hot rods would differ.
The second most points, but you actually had the most out of your supporting cast. So there's nothing actually that the Smash Mouths could have done, unfortunately. So he drops to 1-1 this season. You get your first victory of the season.
You checked the Blitz 2 weeks in, Mike.
Yeah.
How the Blitz looking 2 weeks in based on our expectations?
If they continue to get good supporting cast from the running backs, they will be almost unstoppable.
It's good assumption if Ellington can get going. Turn to our next game. This is the what if game of the week.
What is it? The what if? Bossman to me had a lot of confidence this week in Tennessee, coming off that great victory against Kansas City.
They made this great free agent signing on paper. Tennessee against Dallas. That's a golden 30 points right there against Dallas's Pee Wee defense. Apparently Tennessee has a Pee Wee offense. Evidently,
Apparently it
only
does.
going for 10 points.
And we didn't have enough confidence in Washington at home against Jacksonville.
Something was scary about Jacksonville's defense.
I don't know.
Maybe he can tell me one day what it is, because the rest of the NFL sure as I wasn't scared of it.
41 points. That would have put him over the hump. Bossman would have won.
When you lose by 6 points games and you miss the playoffs by a game, you look back at your choices, and this is going to be number one there.
This was the free agent signing, by the way, Tennessee. So he certainly was very confident in Tennessee this week. I don't know why he didn't like to do Washington. Obviously did not have a lot of confidence. Regardless of the RG3 injury, Cousins certainly proved that
it's a week where he got
score.
He got okay numbers from supporting cast. Crabtree, McCoy, Lynch, all 6s. Michael Wallace, another 6. Zorline, 13. San Francisco's defense, though, 28 allowed. That wound up killing a lot of supporting cast valiant efforts.
Unfortunately, it did not matter because Washington was the key here. Looking at System of the Down, they could have done things a little bit differently. And the system actually started RG3, which could have actually had Washington's offense, by the way, but
both players were predicting, I don't know, this Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates were left on the bench this week.
I don't think that a lot of people felt that San Diego was going to be given a lot of credit to defeat
How much credit do you give Dwayne Allen to outscore Antonio Gates on a given week?
Yeah, I know. I know the Rivers Antonio Gates combination, and he banked on San Diego big time this year. That was what he was driven towards this entire draft, was to go around San Diego. And the fact that he benched his players this week, that proved to be the biggest difference. But then again, it shows that
he's smiling at 2-0 right now.
He's smiling at 2-0, surprisingly enough, out of all this. One of two undefeated teams in the league.
Yeah, he's survived a couple close games already this season. He hasn't played his lineup to his maximum capacity yet. Again, solid Dolphins offense, defense, a +10 between Cincinnati and Arizona.
That's what was scary. That's really what was scary.
A smart 6 by using Terrence West this week.
Yeah, that was a good free agent pickup.
He's playing the game well right now, System. Boss man, well, they are who we thought they were so far 2 weeks in.
They can still bounce back. They still got a decent squad, but they just
You think they have a decent squad. I'm still not high on this team. Cam Newton doesn't look solid. I don't know what they're doing on offense right now. I don't know what they're doing on defense either with San Fran.
It's still not bad considering that he picked up 24 points alone from the supporting cast, which is pretty good. That is pretty good.
It is good, but 27 points total with the 24, it does not matter if you can't.
It's not as promising, but certainly I believe Bossman can bounce back. It's just he has to make better choices. That's all.
Turning to our last game was the other AFC divisional matchup. The Killer Toads and Falcons, both coming off close wins in week 1.
That's right. So the Killer Toads now moved to 2-0, one of two undefeated teams in the league. And he continues to actually get, decent numbers out of Matt Ryan. Again, Percy Harvin, Martellus Bennett. I don't think there were a lot of eye-popping numbers from the Killer Toads this week.
No, losing AJ Green hurts a bit.
Yeah, but AJ Green will play this week. To me, that actually might have been the bigger difference. It could have resulted in a loss. Unfortunately, the Falcons had a lot of confidence in Detroit this week in starting Stafford and Calvin Johnson.
It's their bread and butter, though. They have to go with Stafford and Johnson, and this is a week where the matchup against Carolina was tough. They were not going to get the usual dominance they were going to anticipate.
He's got to get better numbers of supporting cast. He has to learn to juggle.
He has nowhere else to go but up on a supporting cast. His supporting cast went for the golden mile with a 0 all around.
The only thing he has that really is scary is Calvin Johnson. I mean, Chris Johnson could help out. You're waiting for Kobe Fleener actually to erupt. Actually, I thought that was a good sign. During the draft, but he has not produced.
The bottom line is his offense came down to Philly's offense versus Indianapolis offense, and it just wasn't a big enough dent. And
no, it wasn't.
The 21 on defense, the Killer Toads gained this game primarily on
the defensive end, on Buffalo.
Buffalo had a better defensive day than the 21.
That's what won it for the Killer Toads. So the Killer Toads didn't do anything scary, but it was actually
the Killer Toads surprised me. I wasn't high on them in my preseason podcast, but they do stand at 2-0 right now.
They do stand at 2-0, so it's a good start for them.
The Falcons kind of are who we thought they were 2 weeks.
They nearly were 0-2 this year.
Yeah, nearly.
They were nearly 0-2.
They're getting what we thought from Detroit. Our concerns about their supporting cast as usual are valid.
That's right.
But they still look like a good team, and if they can get Detroit going and Philly stays dominant on offense, possible playoff team. Well, with that in mind, let's turn our attention to our moronic displays of intelligence from the week. there were a lot of fun candidates, but we narrowed it down to 5. At number 5 goes the system of the down. Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers don't combine for 18 points each every day, and when you leave them on your bench that way, you're going to get noticed. Number 5. Number 4, the Falcons supporting cast. If you can find them, let us know, because... Number 3, the Solamente. Jay Cutler, 24 points on the bench. 4 touchdowns to your TV is hard to let go of. And even if you didn't know if Marshall and Jeffrey were starting, could have easily made a move there. I'm unhappy with that choice there. The Rough Riders. You sign Denver's defense. You draft Denver's defense. You have them with Denver's offense. You obviously have games you're going to use them on the 50-50. If a 13.5 point spread against the Chiefs is a little too scary for you, why do you have them? In this case, use them. You would have won the game. Gotta use the 50-50 if you're going to sign them. And number 1, the boss man for their brilliant free agency decision of Tennessee's offense and benching Washington's offense. Again, the Jacksonville Jaguars have a scary defense. I don't know what to say there. The fans sure as hell aren't there in Jacksonville because they scared the fans away, but Washington went for over 40 points. You left them on your bench. That's why you're sitting at 0-2. And you're also the number 1 moronic display of intelligence of the week. So, Mike, let's turn our attention to week 3. What do we have to look forward to?
There are a lot of actually good matchups. To me, we vary a little bit on whether the game of the week is. I mean, I think Solomon and Rough Riders is solid.
I like that matchup. My personal choice was going to be the Bolts and Hot Rods. Some reason I'm looking forward to see the Hot Rods can stick it to the Bolts.
Well, yeah, actually, it's a great divisional matchup. The winner will maybe
They are first. Well, they'll be
it's
tied
a
with
share
they'll
first
share
place.
first. They might share first.
There's
place,
no
yeah.
other divisional matchup with the exception to me against Maximus right now.
Yeah.
So this actually is a pretty good matchup, and we like to see what the Hot Rods could actually do. I think the Smash Mouth system.
Stink.
Let's see what you do this week.
Yeah.
Yes, I will win.
Like Ben would say, you got fortunate. You got lucky.
Better be lucky than good.
And that won't last you too long in this league.
No, it won't.
Other matchups include Smash Mouth. I left my 56 points at home against System of the Down. Just a preview of next week's podcast. Boss Man versus the Blitz. I guess the Boss Man must be tired of me yelling at them, so this is a good chance to shut me up. Falcons Maximus. Well, I don't know what to say for Maximus, but hopefully,
You hope Maximus gets a win at some point.
hopefully someone from the 2 weekest supporting cast from
I
last
think
week, someone's got to score.
I think I'm trying to beat Rob actually for the first time. I don't think I've actually beaten Rob.
Our last game is Picks against the Cartel. It's a good Super Bowl history between those two, actually.
Yeah. So that'll be a pretty good matchup headed in. Again, we're going to clash with Atlanta like we did this week, so it's going to be a lot of fun to see exactly what everyone does the rest of the way.
As again, hopefully we see some more trades. We like to do some trade discussions every week on this podcast, so please talk to each other. But with that in mind, I wish everyone the best of luck for week 3. Yep. I'm Andrew Bird.
I'm Michael Bird.
Good luck.
Okay, you have the opportunity to replay, Tom?
Use that time. It's only 4:11.